Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today we are going to be going over the math exploration of applications and interpretations, as well as approaches and actually analysis and approaches guide. Wow. Okay, so AI and AA. So in both of these IB courses, your math exploration is the same thing. So whatever class you're in, you're going to be doing the same exact thing. So it's going to be actually new applications and interpretations. You kind of, if you're in math studies, it's different, but there's no more math studies, so here we go. I have a couple friends with me that we're going to be going over this with, so if you hear voices, they may have questions. So this is not going to be a directly information with just me talking, so bear with us as we go through it. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hello, I'm Jocelyn.
Okay, so we have the internal assessment criteria for both SL and HL. This is what you're going to have to be doing. Here's your criterions right here. So we have A, B, C, D, E. And when you write your paper, a lot of people ask, should we label it, A, B, C, D? No. So when you go through, you should, if you want headings, do presentation, mathematical communication, personal engagement, reflection, and use of mathematics. Now, they don't have to be necessarily in this order. If you want to do your personal engagement first, that's fine. Math communication is actually throughout your paper, so you're not going to have specifically, this is my math communication part. So this is an exploration, so just be kind of realize that it's not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are all going to kind of be mixed up in the end. All right, so let's go through each criteria. The first one is presentation. So here we have presentation. These are the achievement levels that you can get. So presentation, you can get between a 0 and a 4. 0 means it doesn't reach any standards. To 4, the exploration is coherent, well organized, and concise. Now, what they do here is they define what these words mean. So coherent, it's logically developed, easy to follow, meets its aims. This refers to the overall structure. Well organized, it includes an introduction, it has tables and graphs and diagrams, if you use any equations, so on and so forth. So if you want to pause and read through this, you can. I'm going to flip over to that next page. Okay, so the next page goes on to define concise for that criterion A. The exploration does not show irrelevant or unnecessary repetitive calculations, graphs, or descriptions. So if you make a pie chart or a bar graph, don't make 15 of them. You make what you think would be relevant to your study. So next is mathematical communication, and here you can get between a 0 and a 4. And again, it's based upon these standards. So math communication is going to be your notations, your symbols, your terminology. Calculator and computer notation is acceptable only if it's software generated. Otherwise, it is expected that students use appropriate mathematical notation in your work. So you have to, if you use a chi-squared, you should have the actual chi-squared symbol. If you use summation, you should use summation notation. You need to define key terms and variables, use multiple forms of math representation such as formulas, diagrams, table, charts, graphs, and models where appropriate. And you need to set out to conduct your proofs logically where they're appropriate. So examples of level 1 include graphs not being labeled, consistent use of computer notation with no forms of other math communication. So if you're finding mean or you should write down the mean formula and then show your substitutions into there. Level 4 is achieved by using only one form of mathematical representation as long as this is appropriate to the topic being explored. For level 4, any minor errors that do not impair clear communication should not be penalized. So you can use mathematical representations. This is saying, if you use one form, as long as it's appropriate for you, that's fine. You can use more than one, but again, it's being appropriate for what you're studying. Yep, go ahead. So question, go ahead.
So when it talks about using only one form,
yep.
Would that mean what does that mean? Form, equation, or?
Yeah, so let's talk about if you're looking to see if there's a linear relationship between two variables to help you kind of predict what's going to happen in your study, doing that linear regression, finding R, the correlation coefficient. That's one mathematical representation. So as long as you do that well, and it's appropriate for what your topic is, you can achieve a level 4. So it's not like you have to do linear regression and then do another completely different process, because that other process might not be relevant or appropriate. So as long as you have one that's appropriate and you're showing your work for it, then you're good to go. Okay, the next thing is personal engagement. And when I was at my conference this past last year, personal engagement was a big piece. It's really personally engaging with what you're studying, so it has to be personal to you. I actually have a student working on a project with drunk driving and crashes, because that's something in her life that she's seen happened and she's been affected by it, and so she talks about that in her paper. So that's her personal engagement with her paper. Hopefully she didn't mind me saying that. So personal engagement, you can get a 0 to a 3. So zeros, you don't reach the standards. Again, it's based upon these standards. So if you would like to read these, you can. I kind of just gave you an example of what personal engagement is. And it can be recognized in different ways. It can include thinking independently or creativity, or using a creative sense, I guess, presenting mathematical ideas in your own way, exploring a topic from different perspectives, making and testing predictions, which kind of even makes me think of more along the lines of even conducting a biology experiment. That's where you want to see if different fertilizer and sunlight produce plants differently, and you're going to fit a model for growth based upon those fertilizers. There you have your math, and there you have your personal engagement is you actually want to seek out to see which is the best. And then maybe you can bring the plants to your parent, guardian, neighbors, and brighten up somebody's day. Yep.
What would that look like when someone's writing this? Like, would it be talking about why they chose this topic, why it's significant, and then maybe talking about it from different perspectives to reach that different standard?
Yep, exactly. So they definitely want to know why you chose the topic, and what the topic means to you. And they also want to know during the process of completing your topic, what happened? Did you come to any difficulties? What would you do differently next time? You can use that as well.
Okay, so that would be in that same section. Like, you don't have to be like saying, it doesn't have to be written away where it's like a progressive thing where it's like start to end of your process.
Oh, it just depends on what your paper is. Some people kind of interweave their personal engagement. Some people put their personal engagement first and then do their whole math process, and then perhaps in their conclusion come back to it.
Okay.
I have one paper where the student is doing an environmental exploration, and she's very cautious of the environment and wants to protect it. And during her study, she found that nothing was related, and she threw up her paper. She's like, I can't believe nothing's related. And so you would write about that as well, being shocked that all of these variables aren't related, and maybe looking into some other effect of why the environment might be doing what it's doing. But again, that's personally engaging in that math exploration that you're doing, and then writing and communicating about it.
So you can use I?
You can use I. Yep. And so that kind of rolls into exactly what we were talking about, which is criterion D, which is reflection. And it's, having a meaningful reflection linking to what the aim or the goal of your exploration was, and commenting on what you've learned, considering what limitations this study may have, or what implications that it may have for other studies. So it's really reflecting upon the process. of conducting the exploration and the process of concluding on the exploration. So, again, like a lot of your personal engagement can be interwoven through it, which you might find that is naturally might happen. So don't shy away from, putting your own thoughts into the paper. That's okay. That's good. It'll get you some points. And then the criterion E, which is the last one, is the use of mathematics. And this is where you show that you really understand what you're doing. You can get between a 0 and a 6 on this. And I'm going to turn the page so that you can see the 4, 5, and 6 level for those of you who don't have the paper in front of you. So here's the 4, 5, and 6. And the 0 was, I don't know if you can see it very well. Here's 0 through 3. And then 4, 5, and 6 is on that next page. And this is demonstrating that you understand the math that's needed to support your goal. If you're setting out to test to see fertilizer and sunlight for these plants, and you are putting a mathematical model together to demonstrate which one is best, your math has to back that up correctly and appropriately. And then down here, you just see this is HL, but we are a SL school, so I'm not going to go over, sorry everybody, use of the HL one. So it really is, I think the whole process overall is having an introduction, saying what you want to set out to accomplish, what your aim or your goal is, telling why you have this personal engagement with this topic, providing information and measurements. So if you research data, if you gather data, if you survey data, showing the math processes to actually come to some conclusions to answer your aim or your goal, interpreting the results, and then reflecting upon those results.
So the results would they be put in criterion D, and they would be like, this is analysis, this is what I learned from it, this is the analysis, this is what I learned from it.
Yeah, you can. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Just
And
which?
yeah, yep, you can do that. And if that's how your paper is going to flow,
Yeah.
some papers may just, some people may say, this is my math process, and I'm going to conclude on my math process, and now I'm going to reflect, and then that's it. And some people
Yeah.
may want to flip back and forth, like, I first saw this, and now I'm going to reflect upon it, and then I came to this conclusion, and now I'm going to reflect. So it really depends on how your study goes. I really think the big thing is going to be the use of the math. It has to be relevant to at least reach a 3. So I think that's where peer-to-peer help and definitely seeking out teacher suggestions on if your math is relevant to help you answer your questions and is at the level of what you're learning. So you don't want anything too simple. So if you're just making bar graphs, it's not going to cut it. That's going to give you a 1. So you have to show some type of relevant math that's being used in your course over the last 2 years. Because you can use some topics that were in your SL1 as long as it's to the level that you're learning. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there a research question that we have to write for this?
So that's your aim or your goal. And if you're researching a topic, then yes, you would use your research question. If your goal is to find the best something, or your aim is to set out to develop something, it just depends on what your exploration is going to be.
So after you gather your data, maybe through this you see how maybe it's directed towards something different, then maybe isn't fully like relevant, like how you have like sculpted your research question, can you change it?
You can, and that's what happens sometimes in studies. When you start exploring your topic, it may take you to a different direction. I guess time's almost up, everybody. It may take you to a different direction, and that's fine. You just have to make sure that you resculpt your question, your data supports it, or any math supports it, and then your your use of math supports what you're now setting out to find that's new. You know what I mean? So it might change, but I wouldn't suggest switching it to something entirely different right in the middle. Unless there's something not working out, definitely ask your teacher, because they might see something that you're not seeing, that might help you get back on the right track. So don't completely switch it, but new evidence might come up as you are doing your research or your exploration. Yeah.
That could be part of your
And
reflection.
that could be part of your reflection. Exactly. All right, so I am going to stop time right now. If those of you who know me can always come and ask me questions. Please remember to seek out your teacher's help with this as well. We're here to help. Hopefully this helped. It's Dr. Mears. This is a brief review and conversation of the math exploration. I will be back with more information.
Signing off.